Mia Carter's fingers were shaking so badly she could barely keep the phone steady as the gurney rattled down the corridor outside the operating room. A nurse reached for it again. "We need to go in now," she said firmly, but Mia pulled it closer to her chest, refusing to let the call end. On the screen, "Mom, we are not cancelling our vacation for this," her mother's voice snapped through the speaker. "You always do this, Mia, always turning things into emergencies." Mia tried to answer, but another wave of pain folded her in half. Then her father took the phone. "Selfish, you dump everything on us, we raised you already." Behind them, faint but real, airport announcements, suitcase wheels rolling, the sound of a life moving forward without her. Mia whispered that her son Leo was home alone, that she was being taken into emergency surgery, that she just needed them to stay. Her mother laughed once. "Your brother deserves this trip, not more drama." The doors to the operating room began to swing open. Her vision blurred as the gurney rolled forward. Somewhere above her, a nurse adjusted the IV line and repeated that they had to proceed immediately. Mia's grip tightened on the phone until her knuckles went white. "Please," she whispered into the speaker, not sure if anyone was still listening. "Just stay with Leo, just tonight until I'm stable." Her father sighed like she was asking for something unreasonable. "I told you," he said, "you're always creating chaos." Then another voice, her mother, already distant, already leaving. "We are done discussing this." A sudden metallic echo filled the corridor as the doors widened fully. Cold light spilled over her face, masks, gloves, motion everywhere. The nurse reached in again. "I need the phone now." Mia shook her head once, but her strength was already slipping, the sedation pressing heavier into her limbs. And then, just before the mask came down, her mind latched onto one final image: Leo at home, small, waiting, believing someone was coming. A thought she couldn't finish. A voice cut through the noise, sharp and final. "We're starting now." And everything narrowed to white. Mia woke to the sound of machines beeping steadily beside her, and the heavy pull of anesthesia still clinging to her body. Her throat felt raw, like she had been asleep underwater. The first thing she did, before even fully opening her eyes, was reach for her phone. It was on the bedside table. No missed calls. No frantic messages. Just one new text from her mother. "Don't make us the villains again." Mia stared at it, trying to process the timing, the tone, the sheer calmness of it. Her fingers scrolled automatically, searching for something, anything that showed concern. There was nothing. Then another message popped in, not from her parents. Her sister-in-law. "Mia, did you really have no backup plan for Leo?" Her chest tightened. A nurse came in to check her IV line. "Try not to move too much," she said gently. But Mia was already sitting up, ignoring the pain that shot through her abdomen. "I need my discharge notes, and I need to know who was contacted for my son." The nurse hesitated just a fraction too long. Mia noticed that hesitation mattered more than the pain. She dialed her brother next. The call picked up instantly. Beach noise flooded the line. Laughter, wind, a completely different world. "Oh yeah," he said casually, like they were discussing something minor. "Mom and Dad said you had everything handled. They said you were exaggerating the surgery thing anyway." Mia went still. "I'm literally in recovery right now." A pause. Then a short, uneasy laugh. "Yeah, they mentioned you tend to overreact." The line disconnected. That night, Mia insisted on a video call with Leo through a caregiver she barely remembered hiring during the emergency. His small face appeared on screen, safe but uncertain. "Grandma said you left me first," he said quietly. Mia couldn't respond. Later she turned back to the nurse, voice sharper now. "Check the emergency contact log," who refused to take him. The nurse looked down at the chart. Then slowly said, "There was a refusal logged." The hospital Wi-Fi flickered as Mia forced the emergency contact logs open again, scrolling with shaking fingers through lines of timestamps she could barely believe were real. 12:14 a.m. primary contact reached, declined. 12:17 a.m. secondary escalation, declined. 12:23 a.m. marked, Family unavailable due to prior travel commitments. Mia stared at the screen. Prior travel commitments, she repeated under her breath. Her surgery had already been marked urgent, life-threatening enough to trigger emergency protocol, and still, someone had written that down like it outweighed her son's safety. She kept scrolling. Another note appeared from the social worker escalation file. Family advised condition is non-urgent personal matter per next of kin statement. Mia's hand tightened around the phone. That wasn't a misunderstanding, that was wording, someone had chosen that wording. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was the family group chat. She hadn't been removed yet. A new post sat at the top. Her mother smiling on a beach chair, ocean behind her. Caption, finally peace after dealing with constant drama at home. Below it likes comments. You deserve this break. Family first always. So glad you're getting rest. Mia's breath caught. She typed once slowly. I was in emergency surgery. The message sat there. Seen. No replies. Then her name vanished from the group. Removed by admin. Her phone immediately rang. Her brother. You really didn't have to do that, he snapped before she could speak. They were trying to enjoy 1 week without your chaos. Mia's voice went flat. I was in an operating room. Another pause, then irritation, not concern. You always make everything bigger than it is. The call ended. Silence didn't last long. Unknown number. One ringed. Mia answered. A calm voice spoke. We need to talk about your son's living situation. The voice on the phone didn't change tone when Mia answered. It stayed calm, procedural, almost detached. This is a family welfare liaison assigned through the hospital escalation report, the man said. We need to confirm what happened during your emergency incapacity period regarding dependent care refusal. Mia sat down slowly on the edge of the hospital bed. I was in surgery, she said flatly. I understand, the voice replied, but records show multiple declined guardianship attempts while you were under active medical intervention. This qualifies as potential neglect exposure for your dependent. The words didn't land like shock anymore. They landed like structure, something solid forming under the chaos. Before Mia could respond, her apartment door clicked open remotely. The caregiver she had hired appeared in the doorway, breath unsteady, holding a folder pressed tightly to her chest. I came as soon as I could, she said quickly. They tried to cancel me after you were already in surgery. Mia looked up sharply. Who did? The caregiver swallowed. Your mother, she called me directly. Said you were unstable, not fit to authorize care, and that any arrangement I made wouldn't be honored. She stepped forward and dropped the folder on the table. Inside, printed call logs, emails, timestamps. Blocked confirmations, cancel attempts, rerouted emergency contacts. Mia's hands stopped shaking, not because she was calm, but because everything finally aligned into something intentional. This wasn't confusion, she said quietly. The caregiver shook her head. No, it was control. A sudden knock hit the apartment door. Once, then again. Mia opened it. Her brother stood there. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a hospital social worker and a legal liaison holding a sealed document packet. The brother didn't speak. He just looked at Mia and said quietly, They said you needed to see this right now. The social worker stepped into the apartment first, followed by the legal liaison, both moving with the calm certainty of people who had already seen the full picture before arriving. The folder in the liaison's hands was placed on the table without ceremony. Everything has been verified, the social worker said. Emergency contact logs, refusal timestamps, caregiver interference, and financial dependency disclosures. Mia didn't speak, she didn't need to. Her brother shifted slightly behind them, jaw tight, eyes avoiding hers. The liaison opened the file. Mia's parents had been contacted during an active medical emergency. They had declined guardianship of Leo not once, but repeatedly, while Mia was in surgery. They had also actively misrepresented her condition to others, describing it as non-urgent, which directly influenced how the situation was handled across secondary contacts. And worse, verified records showed deliberate obstruction of alternative care arrangements. The room stayed quiet as each fact was confirmed aloud. When it was finished, the social worker exhaled once. This constitutes confirmed neglect of dependent care support during medical incapacity, as well as interference in emergency placement procedures. Mia finally looked up. Her voice was steady but low. So they knew. No one contradicted her. Her brother rubbed his forehead. They told me you had it handled, he said quietly, almost like he was trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. That doesn't match the evidence, the liaison replied. There was a long pause before Mia stood. Not quickly, not emotionally, just decisively. She walked to the table and took out her phone. One by one, she executed the changes already prepared during the hospital recovery window. Financial transfers stopped, shared accounts severed, and recurring support payments redirected into legal escrow pending investigation outcomes. No hesitation, no reaction left to give. Within minutes, notifications began to flood in. Her father calling repeatedly. Her mother messaging in bursts, first anger, then denial, then panic as transactions failed. Mia didn't open any of them. The social worker confirmed that Leo was now under temporary protected guardianship arrangements, fully documented and monitored until custody responsibility was formally resolved. He was safe, stable, no longer exposed to uncertainty. The fallout spread quickly beyond the room. Family members who had repeated the overreaction narrative began retracting statements after receiving official documentation. Reputation damage followed, not from emotion, but from verified record. Mia's brother stepped back slowly, voice lower now. I didn't know it was like this. Mia didn't answer him, because there was nothing left to argue. That night she returned to her apartment alone, but for the first time nothing about it felt unstable. Bills no longer tied her to people who had abandoned responsibility during crisis. Silence no longer meant isolation, it meant control. Leo sat beside her on the couch later, drawing quietly, asking simple questions again instead of confused ones. Mia watched him for a moment, then rested her hand on the table beside him, steady, grounded. Her phone rang once more from an unknown family number. She glanced at it, then set it face down without a word. Outside, the world kept moving, but nothing about her life was being negotiated anymore. Final lines. Some families don't fall apart in a moment, they simply stop deserving access.